Hi guys, welcome to Warlord Weekly. I'm Warlord Brett. Today my assistant will be Warlord Raven. Today we're going to go over baits, just sort of the concept of them. This is going to be broken into a 2-video series. The reason because of that is conceptually I break baits into 2 different types of baits, alright? There's what we call passive baits and then active baits. The difference being that passive baits are any time that I am just trying to basically influence him to make a decision that is wrong. So, for instance, holding my arm too far inside to try to convince him to throw here if I have a response ready, right? So I'm trying to basically influence him to decide to throw in certain areas. Active baits are where I am instead trying to work on his muscle memory and instinct to force him to throw a shot. A great example, people love to throw that high cross, so I step in and I throw some little chop right here to get that response immediately block and return, right? So I'm coming in there, right? That's an active bait. I'm creating where I want him to throw by acting on his automatic responses, okay? We're going to have another video that we go all over active baits. For right now, I want to go over passive baits, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how they work, you know, and how we can put them into our game. And I'm kind of going to break them down into basic, intermediate, and advanced usages, okay? We're going to go over it relatively fast, nothing super long. Okay, so when we talk about basic baits, all right, we're talking about walking up and leaving an obvious opening, right? Now there's arguments about how we're going to hide these, how we're going to disguise these, how much is too much. If I walk up like this, he's going to know something is wrong, right? Like, what is he doing? Like, is he going to come up? Oh, you know. But if I come in like this, a little too inside, now maybe he's feeling that he can throw for that. But why don't we look at how we can use basic baits and throw it into our game, okay? We can start with single sword, all right? Most of this involves me creating or figuring out a response to an attack, all right? For instance, if he high crosses me and I feel comfortable blocking here and throwing up under his arm, right? Or if I want him to throw inside to hit right there. The idea is first I need to find an attack that I know I have a response to. Does that make sense? All right. So once I've found that attack that I think I can respond to in a good, positive manner, that is when I'm then going to bait him to throw this attack, okay? We need to make sure that we have our response ready before we ever set the bait, right? So I want him to come inside. I'm going to go right here, I'm wait, and that's where I get it, all right? Simple things like that. Using the shield, another very basic style of bait, right? So it's just this simple shoulder. I'm going to drop my shield so the shoulder's showing, right? And I know that I have the response that if he swings in for it, I can beat him, right? So this is the basic concept of baits, right? Learning a response to defeat a specific attack, and then showing them that your defense is weak to that specific attack so that you can then use that response to win, right? Like I said, this is now extremely basic. Now let's work on how we can use these in more intermediate ways, because yeah, if I go out and fight a newbie out there, these basic methods can be very effective. But the second you start fighting people who know better, things get a little bit more difficult. If I walk up to Adam with my shield over here like this, he's going to go, I don't think any of that's real. Like, something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go into what I consider an intermediate style of baiting, right? And in the intermediate style, it is building the bait into your guard, okay? So, for instance, as a sword foot forward fighter, I have a tendency to fight like this, with my shield extended to this side and this shoulder very open, okay? This is a natural bait built into my guard. We go back to what I said in the beginning. I'm leaving a shot open that I have an answer for, right? If someone throws to this shoulder, I'm able to easily respond, right? I've won the fight. But at the same time, it is farther back, it's pushed away, and it's allowing me to project more defense into my other areas, right? So I'm not using this in a one-dimensional way. I'm not saying, hopefully he swings here. Instead, I'm leaving a weakness in my guard that I have a good response for, that also allows me to add strength to the other locations of my body, right? So my guard actually gets stronger in the places I don't want him to swing by leaving one spot open.
Brett, would you consider that managed risk?
Yes. Yeah. Managed risk is a great way to say it. The other great thing about this is it allows you see, when you have bait options open, you leave yourself vulnerable to things like fakes to that specific area that pull you out, or then realizing that you have a response and trying to play off of that. But as you build it into your guard, you're able to give yourself a situation that you have more practice at than whoever is against you, right? You may fake here, but if I leave this as the weakness in my guard, will get a lot more practice playing around this one weakness than you will trying to beat it. So in many ways, it's the kind of idea a lot of times that I teach in single sword is, you know, if you move over here, Adam, and turn towards me, right? If I'm going to defend against Adam and I want a single sword guard, well, what is the most neutral guard? What is the one that is the most defense of my body? Well, it's probably something right here, right? Dead down the center line. I now am the closest to blocking all attacks. The problem becomes he can now attack to any direction and I must move, right? I have to block here, I have to block here. Whichever way he's going, I'm tracking. It's not always the best thing to do. So if instead I were to say, take my guard right here, now, obviously, this entire side of my body is open, but it's real hard for him to come outside over here, right? I have a very high guard over here, or very far out guard over here, which affords me the privilege of only having to pay attention to what comes inside, right? And now I need to break, all right? So we're going to look at the same things, the same concepts is what we're going to do when we're building it into our guard. Single sword, full up combo, or whatever, is where it's this idea that we're going to project more defense in one direction and leave one weakness because it makes it easier for us to cover the weakness rather than having 4 things we need to cover a little. Having one thing to watch for a little bit more is easier to manage, all right? Okay. So that is what I talk about as kind of your intermediate style of baiting. Built into guard and understanding that you're constantly maintaining one weakness that you have an answer for in order to add strength to everywhere else, right? So now we're going to go into some advanced usages of baiting. So if Adam and me are fighting, Rayton and me are fighting, right? If we're standing at range, what are common things that you're going to be doing while we're at range?
At range, I'm really looking at positions I can take without getting hit. I'm also figuring out what they're sensitive to so that I might be able to, if I know that they overcompensate for that shoulder, I know that they're a little more sensitive to it compared to the other things. So I might be looking at like, well, if I can like do one of these, oh, he keeps the shield tucked even though I'm threatening him. That means he's probably aware that I can't hit him in the shoulder, but he's probably hitting the arm. So maybe I'll set something up where like, well, maybe I'm gonna like try to counter his counter where I go, I'm gonna fake it your bait, and do something like that, which is pretty common, but he's aware of it.
Right. So basically what he's talking about is pretty standard high-end fighting. When we're sitting at range, he's constantly looking to try to see what I'm going to do. You saw him do little things like step in like this to see if I pulled my shield up, right? These are all him trying to find tells of what to do to get an advantage when we actually step in and fight, right? He's trying to win the fight before we start, all right? Now, as you understand this game and get better at this game, you start realizing things like when he's at this range and he goes, he's probably not actually swinging, right? So if what he's doing right now is trying to understand how I react and make a plan for that, we're going to move into advanced baiting, and I'm going to do my best to react incorrectly to influence what he's going to do, right? Now, how do I do that? All right, so say I'm sitting right here. Say he pushes, he throws a little pot shot over here, and I can tell he's not actually committing, right? Now, I probably want to block that, if I'm for real, like this, right? I want to keep it tight, just want to drop my hand, we're going to be good. But I'm not going to do that. I know we're at range. I know he's not actually looking to close because I can feel that it's just this quick pop. So instead, when he throws that, I'm going to punch block that, and I'm going to block the hell out of it. Now, what that's going to do is, as you move right here, watch again, as I punch block this, it's going to set up my shoulder. And any righty who throws anything to that sword-side hip or money realizes one of the number one things they're looking for is if the person is dropping their shield to block, right? If I drop my shield to block, what does that mean? Y'all can all see it, my shoulder's wide open, all right? So now, we go back to what we were before. I already said, shoulder, it's a weakness I built in, right? And why is it a weakness? Because I've already got a planned offensive, or a planned counter if someone goes there, right? So now, I'm not just coming here and showing him my shoulder and hoping he throws for it, right? Because he's smart. He's smarter than that, and it's probably not going to happen. Instead, I'm going to try to convince him, that I'm making a mistake, all right? And now that he knows that I make a mistake, it's much easier for him to decide on his own and think he's making the correct option to, right? So, that's one way to look at it. There's different ways to do it. You know, if someone throws, if it's a single sword and someone throws, just throw a random shot, there's a little tap thing, and I drop like this, right? I saw it go low, and what I did, all I did was I went to it way harder than I should have, right? I should never be blocking this shot like this, but when he sees a little tap shot and me block like that, it gives him immediate knowledge that I'm doing something wrong. And what we're doing here is everything we can to feed them incorrect information while they're standing at range trying to find out what we're going to do. So, I hope some of that was informative. It's a lot of, you know, it's a difficult concept to really work on, but it's imperative in anyone's game to have a strong knowledge and the ability to use baits well. So if it's not something you use, start out with basic baits. Start out with them. You don't need to go straight to advanced. You don't need to be using advanced when you're fighting, you know, a 4-week newbie, right? So start out and play with those basic baits. See what you think about adding one into your guard by over blocking a certain way so that it is easier for you to read and compensate the other way, right? And then play with it if you're getting into those high-end fights where people are tagging you, you know, you hear rogue theory, throw to the hand, you know, try to get them to do all this stuff to engage in a block strike. Play with giving them wrong information when you see them doing it. So, anyway, I hope you guys get something out of this. Go out, try it, see what you think. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. But otherwise, thanks for having us.